My name is Pastor Hal York, and welcome to Truth in the Trenches. Today we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 1, where we read this. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than he who is perverse in speech and is a fool. Better is a poor man. Now there's a phrase we don't hear or use very often. To most people, being poor is the worst thing that could be said about someone. They can't imagine somebody being a poor man being better off than somebody else. When we think of being poor, we think of someone who lacks resources, has little of this world's goods, and it could involve all of that. And if we were to keep reading, we would see why being poor is often assumed to be the worst thing that could happen to a person. Now remember, when we talk about being poor, we're not talking about being lazy, the lazy person. Verse 15 says, laziness casts into a deep sleep, and an idle man will suffer hunger. The Proverbs has a great deal to say about laziness, but the poor man is not a lazy man. He could be poor because of ill health, lack of opportunity to work, unexpected financial setbacks, or any number of things, medical bills, and so on. But verse 3 says that the foolishness of man ruins his way, and his heart rages against the Lord. And could a part of that raging against the Lord be evident in how we treat the poor people, how we view the poor people and deal with them in our lives? Here in Proverbs, the emphasis is not on their lack of money, but on how people treat them. Look at how people treat the poor. In verse 4, it says, a poor man is separated from his friends. In verse 6, it says, many will seek the favor of a generous man, and every man is a friend to him who gives gifts. Verse 7, the brothers of a poor man hate him. His friends abandon him. He pursues them with words, but they are gone. Well, why do some people treat the poor this way? Well, it's because of pride and self-centeredness. People generally are looking to be affirmed, not for people to affirm. They're looking for handouts. They're looking for people who are easy to love, not messy or needy. We're looking for people who can help us. Knowing them can help our status in the community, or maybe some of their good fortune will come our way through favors, etc. Having a poor person as a friend or a family member does not elevate our status in the community. It does not feed our pride or our egos. It does not lead to potential favors or gifts coming our way. But I think much of how the poor are treated comes from hearts that rage against the Lord. Yes, we think the poor should be taken care of, and we will pay people to do it. We will elect people who will promise to do it. But it's all helping from a distance. I voted for people who want to help the poor, so I did my part. We're not looking for poor people to befriend. They're seen as a nuisance and a drain on us. Why? Because they take our attention off ourselves. We don't like that. We want to be part of the group that helps the poor, to pat ourselves on the back. But I don't have time personally. We just get lost in a feel-good about what being part of the we are doing this, but in reality, I am doing little to anything. But we're part of a group, and it makes us feel good. But we tend to seek the favor of generous people, self-motivated. What's in it for me? Notice what verse 1 says again. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity. A poor man with integrity, with character, with virtue, with kindness. A caring husband, a caring wife who loves her kids. His life backs up his talk. That man is better than a rich man or those who speak in perverse ways and is a fool. A man who's not pretending to be something he's not. He doesn't have much of this world's good, but he has something this world desperately needs and can't give, which is called integrity. But all the world sees is his lack of money, his lack of resources, his lack of power, his lack of fame and notoriety, and they seek to avoid him. He has nothing to contribute to their lives from their viewpoint. But Proverbs says the rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. It's easy for the rich to pat themselves on the back and think they're self-made when in fact they're God-made. God created them, has given them the ability, the health to acquire riches. But they rage against the Lord by claiming all the glory for themselves. And that's just another example of how upside down our world is when it comes to things that really matter in the world. Things that lead to an abundant life, a good life, a rich life. Listen to these verses. Proverbs talks about it a lot. Better is little with righteousness than great income with injustice. Proverbs 16:8, it is better to be, or 16:19, it is better to be humble in spirit with the lowly than to divide the spoil with the proud. 17:1, better is a dry morsel and quietness with it than a house full of feasting with strife. Chapter 15, verse 17, better is a dish of vegetables where love is than a fatted ox served with hatred. It's better to walk in integrity and be poor. So what's the lesson for us? We need to guard our hearts. Obviously, there are rich people with integrity, but many a person has sold his integrity down the stream for a lie that riches make life worth living. So we have to lie and steal or plunder or slander, all to gain riches, because we think it's better to be rich than it is to have integrity. And Proverbs says just the opposite. God says just the opposite. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than he who is perverse in speech and is a fool. So guard your heart. Believe what the Lord says. Integrity matters. Integrity matters more than riches. It matters more than money and fame and popularity. If you have a life of integrity, you have something money can't buy, and it will bless you in ways that defy description. In the Psalm chapter 1, if you want a description of how integrity will bless you. And I think you'll see that it's far better to be poor who walks in his integrity than it is to be perverse in speech and be a fool. So may this truth guide us and guard us in the trenches of life as we seek to live our lives for the glory of God and the good of others. May God bless.